Hey, thanks for hanging out with Odell Outdoors. Stick around and I'll show you how to make my delicious tasting immune system building juice using primarily wild edibles and some fruit you can buy at any grocery store. Now I basically make my immune system juice. I start with a pine needle tea, and I use white pine. You can use several different kinds of pine, but I use white pine because ounce for ounce it has 4 times the amount of vitamin C than what oranges do. Now to identify a white pine, you find a tree that has the long needles like this, and on there you're going to have multiple little groups of needles. You grab one of them little groups and pull it off, and there will be 5 needles in there in that one group. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's going to be 5 needles in a little group, and there's going to be multiple little groups on that thing of needles. So that's how you identify the white pine. Now in my juice, we'll see later that I add some oranges and lemon and lime and some apples in there as well. Now that does add the vitamin C from those fruits, but I use it mostly for flavor, to kind of blend out the flavor, because I also add turkey tail mushrooms to it. And the turkey tail mushrooms have a mushroom flavor, and I personally don't find it to be all that great in a juice. So I use the fruits in there to kind of blend that out and help with the flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and gather up, I don't know, a whole bag full of these needles, and then we'll get started. Now the other part of my recipe that I like to use are turkey tail mushrooms. I'll try to find you a pretty good specimen here. If you can see that, they have a shape and kind of coloration that looks like a turkey tail. They're going to be fuzzy feeling, kind of a velvet feel on this side. And then they should be bright white on the back side. These are a little older because we're getting close to the end of the growing season for turkey tails. But they'll have a million little tiny holes in there. And if you kind of break it open, you can see it's white in there. Now, turkey tails are actually have a lot of research done on them by the American Cancer Society for helping to fight cancer, but not necessarily to fight cancer, but it helps with your immune system. So they give an extract of turkey tail mushrooms to cancer patients that have gone through chemotherapy and radiation to help build their immune system back up. So that's why I put them in my juice, as I call it, because I like to drink it cold. But it helps build the immune system. So I use that along with white pine needles, as I talked about earlier. Now I'll show you later in the kitchen. Grind these up with a blender. You want to get it all broken up into little small pieces to help extract those goodnesses that are in there. All those nutrients and that are in the sacral, whatever they call that, polysaccharides that are in there. So that's why I'll show you that later. We'll grind that all up, and along with the pine needles. Now I've got the pine needles on our pan here and the turkey tail mushrooms on another pan. I'm going to put them in the oven, low heat, just to dry them out. I could use a dehydrator, or if I wanted to wait, I could just let them air dry for a couple days. It's going to make the mushrooms grind up much easier, and these will grind up a little easier as well when the time comes to do that. Not necessary to leave them in a very long time. Just want to get them dried up is all. The best way I've found to grind these up is to use one of these KitchenAid little grinder things. I don't know what it's called, but wife does. So I put them in a container here, grind them up into fairly small pieces. That way they break down in the water a lot better to get your nutrients out of them. So we'll go ahead and load a few up. Give it a grind. And then there we go. Got kind of a nice little ground up, not really a powder, you still got some fairly good chunks in there. That way the water can break that stuff down, get your nutrients out of it a lot faster. And as you can see here, we have 2 cups of the turkey tail mushrooms all chopped up. Now I'm going to get these pine needles off the branch. What I found works best, take a pair of scissors and just lightly go around it like you're cutting, but you're not going to cut through that branch. It'll cut through the needles, but not the branch. And then when you get down to the end of the branch, you can just lop it off. You don't have much sitting there left. Now if you don't have one of the blender things, you can just use your scissors and cut these up. Just want to get them kind of cut up a little smaller so that the water has more surface area to get the nutrients out. You can tell that works pretty well. Now we got the mushrooms and the pine needles all chopped up in here. I'm going to get the oranges and the lemons and limes in here in a little bit. Go ahead and get these cut up like this, and then I just cut them in half. Okay, we got all the apples, oranges, lemons, limes cut up in there. And we're gonna go ahead and add it in here, and then we'll put our water in. Ooh, good thing I got clothes on. You can see my reflection. So, I added about 2 1/4 gallons of water because I know it's gonna steam off quite a bit, and I'll end up with about 2 gallons finished product. And you can see it's starting to simmer. We do not want to bring this to a boil. If this boils, it can do 2 things. It can turn our pine needles into turpentine, and then also it can ruin the nutrients that we were trying to get out of there. We just want to kind of have a nice little simmer going on. Just, hot water is all we're looking for. Okay, so now this has been simmering for about 2 or 3 hours. Real low heat. Like I said, you don't want to bring it to a boil. You just want to have it be basically hot water. And this is what it looks like now. Doesn't look all that appetizing probably, especially when you start pulling some of that up. A lot of the pine needles and the oranges and mushrooms all settled to the bottom. But we're going to end up filtering that out. We're going to use a towel. I'll pour that off into another container use a towel as a filter, and then we'll bottle that up into a couple gallon jugs and put it in the refrigerator to chill. Okay, so to wrap up here, I left that juice sitting in the pan overnight to help extract some more of that nutrients and to cool down. I filtered it through a towel, and then I bottled it up into my juice bottles. And I end up with a delicious tasting citric juice here, full of vitamins and minerals that help build your immune system. I did add some honey and sugar to help sweeten it up for my taste. The finished product, you don't taste any of the mushrooms, you don't taste any of the bitterness from the pine needles. All you taste is the citrus from your apples and your oranges, lemons, and limes in there. And then the sweetness from the honey as well. I hope you appreciate this, found it educational. I hope you share it up with your friends. Do your research. There's wild edibles all around you, available all year long. Get out there and enjoy some of those. Thanks for watching. Odell Outdoors. See ya.